and then
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. So we'll look for an approval of the agenda. Changes, modifications,
no, I think we're good.
anything?
I'll move to approve tonight's agenda.
Okay, moved and seconded. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Delegations, Mr. Peterson.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Wilson, Michael Wilson is here with some students from the FFA. I'm going to allow him to introduce. And they just participated in the state tractor driving contest. And I asked Micah to bring him so that they could answer any questions from the board, as well as just so we can brag about them a little bit. So
Thank
I
you.
know Micah is pretty good at that. So I'll turn it over to him.
Good evening, guys. Actually gonna have Taylor, our president, introduce them and tell you their placings and how they did.
Hello, so I'm Taylor Olson, I'm the president. So this is Michael Marshbanks, he is our vice president. He placed first individual. We placed second overall as a team. We have Wyatt Pratt over here, he placed seventh individual. And then this is Jalen Wilson, Mr. Wilson's daughter, she placed 18th individual. Out of
All right.
probably, what, 100 kids or so?
Nice.
And this was a state competition, so
All schools.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's impressive.
yeah, they did awesome. They missed first place by 4 points, so yeah, that's kind of tough. So,
That makes Benton City shine.
yeah. Yeah, yeah, they were 14 points away from a perfect score all the way around.
Wow.
So it's the top two individuals are the team score. So they all take 50 question test, and then they do a parts identification, and then they do the drive test. And so they actually have the course on there. They have a tractor with a trailer, and they have to pull ahead and then back through the course, and then pull back through the cones, and then park in the spot. And they get 2 minutes to 2 minutes and 30 seconds in order to do that. So, and we lost 10 points. And just barely there on time. So otherwise he would have had a perfect score as well. So, but yeah, Michael Marshbanks is the #1 tractor driver in the state with perfect
All right.
score all the way around. So,
Nice.
yeah.
Good
So
job.
they did awesome.
Yeah.
So
That
now I'm
shows
gonna
some
take mom to
skill.
dinner. So
All right.
that's awesome. That's where we're going.
Well,
Well,
congratulations,
it's-
guys.
the other thing that I did want to mention too is, in preparation for all of this, Mr. Wilson approached me about getting a temporary tractor for the district. And I want to thank Drew because he got us all the approvals to be able to accept a loaner from
Burroughs tractor.
there. Okay,
Oh, good.
Yeah, up in Sunnyside.
Mhm.
So it's a $60,000 value tractor that they let these guys drive for a month to practice. A little concerning. So
Yeah.
they went, where are you parking it, and do you have insurance coverage? And yeah, so.
and to be honest, that's the first time that I've ever been involved in something like that, but Drew was able to track down the proper insurance forms so that we could say yes to them loaning us a $60,000 tractor. So
Yeah,
it was a good effort on everybody's part, including Drew.
yeah,
But congratulations, you guys. I grew up on a farm and I drove tractor for longer than I care to remember, and I can tell you, it's not easy to do. So I admire you guys for your skills. I really do.
Did it have a hydrostatic trans?
no.
Oh, no.
Old
What,
school.
what was it? What was the gearing on it?
Highlight 1 through 4.
Okay, plain Jane.
Yeah,
That's good then.
Yeah.
Double good.
yeah, so, yeah, they did awesome.
Awesome.
Yep,
That's
good
great.
job. Made us all proud.
Yep, absolutely.
Thanks, guys.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Congratulations.
Enjoy your dinner.
Enjoy, yes. Anything more?
No, I'm sorry. That's all I have for
Okay.
delegations. Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to the proposed consent agenda. Any discussions or comments? Questions? How about you? Firm with all the numbers? Yep, okay.
So you guys have 3 months worth of financials in there, so we finished up year end, so got that rolled over and got another 3 months done, so.
So the year end is completed.
Yep.
Okay. Anything more? Okay, well, entertain a motion to approve.
I will move to approve the proposed consent agenda.
I'll second it. Okay. Okay, moved and seconded, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Motion passes.
Well, Mr. Thornton, if you don't mind,
Nope,
a
go right
little
ahead.
break, I'd like to introduce our new Director of Maintenance and Transportation. This is Reed Craigow,
Officially retired.
officially hired. And I think we decided on December 11th.
Correct.
First start date.
Okay.
And then in the meantime, Dan is out of the state at the moment, but he's gonna be back. And he'll be back and available, be working side by side with Reed, beginning on the 18th of December. And show him some of the finer details that only Dan knows, I'm sure. But we're very excited and thrilled to get Reed here. He has a very good attitude for the position and has both school and private experience that I think are gonna add quite a bit to the district, especially in the long term. So we're very happy to have Reed, and congratulations to Mrs. Craigo.
Yeah, hi, Kim. Nice
Kim,
to meet you.
nice to meet you
I
too.
know.
She has a particular fondness for Benton City.
Thank you.
That's awesome.
I'm obsessed.
I appreciate all the nice words.
Yeah.
That's kind of you. But yeah, I'm very excited to work and serve the district, and there's a lot of good I think I can do and glad to do it.
Looking forward to it.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
The good thing is you got a week before Dan gets back to learn all the questions.
Exactly.
I'll be doing a lot of note taking.
Yeah. Okay, we'll move on to public comments.
Bless you.
Excuse me.
Open to public comments. Do we have any electronic? Okay, one last call. All right, then we'll move into new business. We'll discuss the academic goals. We've had a workshop or two.
Two
had some
workshops.
talk,
Had two workshops
a
and
lot of input.
as much as input, just an immense amount of information, quite frankly. And thanks to Joni for getting us, what you have in front of you, there are two separate documents. One are the MAP scores that Joni has correlated for you. And then another piece of information that Julie and I went back and forth a few times talking about our goals. And I had included the CEE report around social emotional learning, specifically around caring adults, belonging in school, and those types of things. I think Julie asked a great question, not just at the agenda meeting, but even in our emails back and forth, is do we feel like we have enough information to set some high standard goals for the district? And in my opinion, I think that based on the discussions I've had with most of you, I think that you do. And I think you have a good idea of where you would like to set up a bar that's not simply something that we're going to achieve in 2, 3, 4, maybe even 5 years. We'd like to make some movement to get there. But I think that having my conversation with board members, with Julie, and then going back to Joni and going back and forth about what can we do? I think the board has some very good ideas about utilizing the MAP scores as the basis for the goals, because one of the things that I've come to realize is that in all of our discussion, when we were talking about the ERLA, and thank you, Julie, for clarifying some of my own confusion on it, when Joni and I were going back and forth about getting ERLA scores and what would that look like. The fact of the matter is the board really doesn't need to know those fine details or have that specific number. You know, we made a step forward with the MAP as one of the main reasons, because it's easy to understand. It's got very understandable information. When you see the reports, whether you're a parent or a school or a district as a whole, you can see fairly easily where the trends are going. So I think that based on what we've talked about, I think the real question then for the board and the discussion point would be, where would you like to put a stake in the ground and say, this is what we feel that we should be achieving in Calumet Bend City Schools? And I don't think that there's any reason not to set it high enough to where some might even question the validity of it, because Julie has experienced this firsthand. I know I did when I was in Kennewick. You know, there were times when Kennewick School District goal seemed very unapproachable. And yet, 15 years later, they're very close, in some cases meeting that goal. So that takes some forethought, and I think the board was on the right track when they decided to take this task on, quite frankly. And this is a discussion, so I don't want to.
I really appreciate, Joni, thank you for getting the scores for us. I also really appreciated just having the opportunity to talk with the teachers and really understand the MAP test and when that's administered. I think we do need to keep in mind just the reality of life when you sit a bunch of kids down to take a test. You know, some of those kids, maybe they need breakfast that morning, or, you know, maybe they've got some family crisis going on at home. And so when I think about a percentage of students that I would want to achieve, you know, grade level, I think we have to just keep in mind that, you know, on any given day when, you know, test day, there'll be kids with test anxiety, there'll be kids, you know, going through stuff. It is a difficult, long test for kids to go through. And, you know, a lot of kids will just click and, you know, get it done and won't give their best effort. So I think all those, you know, factors that the teachers brought up to us are something to just keep in mind. Of course, we want all of our kids achieving grade level, but I don't think that's realistic when you look at the different things that can affect our kids on any given day. So I was thinking, you know, just as a starting point, to be about, you know, 80–85% of our kids would be at grade level for reading and math as a goal.
An overall general goal?
Yeah, for both reading and math. And probably maybe from 3rd through 12th grade, or, you know, because those emergent readers, you know, K through 2, I don't know how accurate our math testing is on them, you know, yet. So just because they're so young and they're just learning that. So that's what I was, as a starting point for our discussion, kind of thinking of around there.
Well, one of the things too, that I really, as I talked more to Joni and even stopped to talk to a teacher, you know, some of those test anxiety days like you were talking about, I really like the ability though at our elementary level to then the early tests that we were so impressed by when we had our elementary discussion, those are all administered as a one-on-one. So they're non-computer based, and it's with kind of a connection to this next piece. It's with their teacher or with a person they know. So there isn't going to be that same level of anxiety. We may be able to actually see how results over a period of years in that one-on-one testing environment may differ, or we should be able over the course of some years to notice some trends. Meaning that hopefully what we're seeing is as those ERLA scores go up, we'll see a comparable MAP test score, but you can also figure in those test anxiety pieces like Julie was talking about, and have kind of that second set of data to be able to go back to, which I think is stupendous. And I know Joni likes it too.
My other thought is, when we had our workshops, I really enjoyed hearing the excitement out of the elementary school teachers about the new reading program and learning more about Walk to Read and then also the I always get these confused, but is it Apex or Alex? What are we using at the high school for math?
Alex.
Alex, and just getting a good understanding of what that looks like in the classroom. So I think, you know, I really hate bringing up COVID again because I want to move on from it, but
You got
what
no
I've
idea.
noticed is kids coming out of the pandemic, in any given classroom, you have such a wide variety of levels now. And so those programs like Walk to Read or the math program, anything we can do to help individualize the kids and their education and meet them where they're at, you know, so I think we can set a goal and just kind of focus on implementing those programs that help kids meet them where they're at and take them as far as they can go and do as much as we can to adjusting the instruction in the classroom so teachers have what they need to meet that variety of ranges that they're seeing.
Well, and I think we talked about this maybe even at the very beginning of our first session. You know, the other nice thing about doing this is when you have, you know, grabbing an 80 or 85% for math and reading, that now becomes something that the board can use as a bit of a litmus test for other priorities in the district, as far as saying, you know, we have an academic focus. You know, is X, Y, or Z program, purchase, budget, whatever we're talking about at the time, how does this help us to then meet our stated goal of getting 85% of our kids to meeting grade level? And having that as that litmus test, I think is a really fantastic thing from the board standpoint, because you were able to weigh some decisions that might be or might seem good at the time, but then when you weigh it against well, is it helping us to achieve a district goal in our academic areas? Well, all of a sudden, that's a different way to look at things. And I think the board is really wise for putting themselves in a position to be able to do that, quite frankly.
Joni, did you have any suggestions? You got a vested interest and quite a bit of time invested.
I just see our kindergarten scores, and 85% of our kinders come in below preschool level. And you're talking about having them at 85% of them up, and we have 85% of them that are below where a kinder should be at the beginning of school. And you set that goal, it just brings me flashbacks to where we were a priority school and we had that red dot, that we had to get to the red dot. And some of this PTSD about that goal that we were supposed to meet. So how it's presented, you gotta take that into mind. We've got a lot of teachers there that remember that era. And it became a joke. We can't achieve that because it's so here and our kids are clear down here. So just keep that in mind when this is presented. And then to have more than just one leg that you're looking at, map, Because again, it's a computerized test, especially with the littles. And even, with my own son, you put a computer in front of a computer, he'd have nosebleeds and he just couldn't do it. But if it's one-on-one, like with the IRLA or the DIBELS, and you're using standards like that, especially with the younger kids, then that can also, and when I put the IRLA and the MAP together, they're pretty comparable for most parts with the reading. So just kind of keep those things in mind when you do this. And yeah, and keep the teachers in the loop, because we're on the front line with the behaviors. And it's hard to teach a classroom of kids when you got two of them screaming and one of them taking off. So. Yeah. That's just the elementary. No,
Well, with the percentage, couldn't we set it, I know it's 85%, but like you said, at the lower grade levels.
Yeah.
Could you set it say from this grade at
Like
60% or whatever, whatever we decide. And then
Yeah,
go to
I
middle
was thinking
school.
of not even setting a K-2 goal and
Right.
just starting at third grade, 3rd through 12. So,
Even just 85% by 5th grade. I don't know.
yeah. we can-
It-
But like she was saying, I mean, the teachers probably have a pretty good idea, more or less, whatever percentage we decide. Let's say, what do you guys have, but if this, I think it's
It
good.
depends on how long it's even to give it to us. By the end of the year, we want these guys at
No, no.
85%. It's like, come
No.
Oh, yeah.
on down, show me how to do it. But, if we have, and with this whole new reading program and stuff, we're going to get there, but it's gonna take several. Just got it last year, we're just kind of getting into the groove of it. Don't change it on us. Every 3 years, it looks like something new's coming down the road. It's like, let us finish what we started. So, yeah.
I think we're-
I think if you put it into perspective, and Joni, correct me if I'm wrong on this.
Okay, well.
Well, because I know you see the number at anytime a kindergartner is the class of 2036.
Mhm.
I mean, that's really what we're talking about is that type of a time frame for a kid to go from primary age and get out with a certain set of skills. That's literally how long it takes for some of those kids. I think if you put a number out there such as by 2030 or 2032, I think that becomes a lot easier for teachers or someone to stomach, simply because you realize everyone knows right now this is not a 1 or 2 year fix. We're talking about fixing a cohort of students and maybe a 3-year group. And that cohort of COVID students is just going to move through the system. And we will not see changes in those kids until they're 10 years removed from that. So another consideration to think about, I really do think, though, I mean, the research is fairly clear, you get kid to a standard, hopefully by 3rd grade, you virtually ensure that kid will stay on standard the rest of the time through the entire academic process. It's a big deal.
And you're always gonna have your achievers that are gonna hold up the average, and then the others that are gonna try to do their best. Then the ones that, really need the help.
And I really think that the implementation of the dual language program is also going to help bring up our numbers, because not only are we dealing with kids that, due to whatever economical background they might have had where they didn't get all that exposure, you also now have this whole group of kids that have a second language they're dealing with. And even though they're very, very fluent in English, it's not necessarily academic English, which is what we get at school. So.
And that
So with the dual language, that's also
affects the reading scores too.
reading the math.
So did you have any kind of graduation requirement ideas too? I mean,
Um,
goals? I mean,
I'm just focused on the reading and the math, and also a kind of an SEL goal of that the kids would feel safe at school and have an adult that they felt they could go to if they had a problem. So that's kind of where I focused. I think Pete you had a graduation goal that you sent me, didn't you?
Thought that we actually were talking about not doing a graduation goal, with the idea being that if we were seeing that many kids at grade level in reading and math, we were going to go with the assumption that they're probably going to also be online to graduate.
You had the 70% of our graduates attain a career
Oh, there you
credential during high school or after year 13.
Because one of the things that we're looking at, of course, with our STEM grant and those moving that forward is giving kids the opportunity to make sure that they're in their career pathway or some type of experiential experience. That's a redundant statement. In some type of having that experience that's going to lead them to a credential of some sort. Now, whether that's an AA as a end goal, a BA in college, but more so a journeyman electrician or welder or something like that, some type of a pathway like the kids that were here tonight. There are places where that type of driving experience and then a corresponding interest in engine mechanics may get you a lot of money to go and be in their program. I think if we were going to do something around a high, I think it would need to be more than simply a graduation rate, because a graduation rate can fluctuate, again, based on cohorts. But I really do believe that if you get to where you're supposed to be in your math and English, you're going to open up your opportunities to a diploma and to those other CTE or pathway experiences or career and college readiness that we like to talk about. I think Julie's hit it on the head when we were talking about the SEL things and those ideas. The simple fact is, if our kids have a trusting adult that they know and an adult that they know cares about them, you can eliminate a lot of things. Right now, we've got, about 65% of our kids being able to answer a question, saying that they believe they have a trusted adult in the school. One of the things I noticed about that as I was looking at it, though, is there's a slight decreasing trend in the number of staff members who think that there's a trusting adult in that school. Or so you see the adult perceptions going down a little bit. We're right in the middle of giving our CEE student survey right now. So if we have results ready by December 11th, but I'm anticipating it would be in January, that we would come back to the board and say, okay, well, we're already seeing this trend now in our second year of asking students these questions about self-management and emotional stability and how their feeling of belonging is in school. We'll see a second year's worth of data, and then we start seeing that trend either up or down. We'll get the third year back from our staff and community this year. So
And I was thinking a good goal for
do it.
for feeling safe at school and having a trusted adult at school would to be 100%. Yeah, I wouldn't want, every child to feel safe at school. So
And
I
I
know times are hard and there's, just crises that happen all over the country that kids hear about, and so it's may not be attainable, but I still think our goal should be that every kid would feel safe. So.
Well, and that safety that you're talking about, I mean, if you're, we've had this experience a couple of times this year with reports of what kids perceive to be threats, and they knew who to go to inform the schools of that perception of a threat. And thankfully, they both turned out not to be real. But at the same time, they felt more than comfortable enough to come to us. And that's the key, is that ability to, if there's even one person in the school where a kid feels like they can go and talk to them, that's all. That really is it's a huge deal. And I'm in agreement. I don't think that's too much to ask, especially, we've got the high school working with an advisory program now. The middle school's continuing on that. I'm going to be meeting with the advisor committees from those two groups here in the next week or two. And that, quite frankly, that's our simple basis for making sure that we have that interaction. That advisory class is an integral part of that. And quite frankly, if we have, while 65% may be a passing grade on one of my English tests I used to give in the 90s, 65% means that 35% of our kids don't. And that number is too high. Any kid who says that they don't have a trusting adult, quite frankly, in my opinion, is one too many.
Especially as far as the teachers going down a hill a little bit. I mean, we're told we're supposed to love everybody, no matter. And there's people that are hard to love, but we're told we're supposed to, so. It's a goal. Okay, I'm gonna make a proposal, if you don't mind. I'm gonna say, and I'm just throwing this out here, 80% for 5th grade, 85% for 8th grade, and then your 100% SEL. And it would say of students at grade level for reading and math. And then we'll just have to leave high school maybe for the next.
So you said 80% at 5th grade?
Yep.
And then you said
85% at 8th grade.
85 at 8th grade.
And then your 100% SEL.
I was curious if there was a way that we can scale, stagger it. Can we do 75% at the 3rd grade level, and then 80% at the 4th grade level, and then 85%, and then once we're at that 85%, we can assume, hopefully, that they just continue to improve, right? Once they're there. Is there a way to start a little lower with the youngers and move it up as they go through? I don't know. It was just a thought, so that it's not quite so daunting to those actually doing the work, and maybe a little more achievable when we're dealing with what we're dealing with at the moment. So I don't know. It was just, as I'm sitting here thinking about it, can we just bring it down a bit, but keep that standard, still have a goal to attain in that 3rd grade level? And then just bump it up every year as they progress.
And then set it like in 5 years or
Right.
whatever we want. But
Yeah.
hopefully we're here, and if not, then we'll kind of reassess
Mhm.
where we're at and look at it again.
See, and I think one
We'll
of
be
the,
here in 5 years.
yeah. And I know, Joni can attest to this because she's been a classroom teacher and she's in RTI now. We talk about growth a lot.
Mhm.
And it isn't the fact that we're going to hit a number in a year or two, it's that we're making growth towards that goal.
Right.
I think because the flip side of what you were talking about, Teddy, but another way to look at it would be to say, you know what? We want to see growth towards a goal but by
Right.
only 7 years from now is 2030, which is weird, or 6.5. By 2030, 85% of our kids are going to be at their grade level in reading and math. Or making growth towards that. I think that would be a way to phrase it that would take some of what Joni's consideration is. About knowing you don't have to hit it all, that you don't have to be up here tomorrow. We want you here tomorrow and maybe here in a week, and then, how do you eat an elephant? bite at a time. That type of a message would be something I think you could do. I think some people would get behind something like that.
And I was thinking of a variable when like you were talking, but then they would put all the third graders doing this and the fourth graders trying to do that, and the fifth graders trying to, or teachers, I mean, trying to make their achievement. But if you just make one lofty goal, they can all work together and make it happen by the time they get to fifth grade, and know that, hey, by the time these kids get up there, we want them, pick on those guys that need all the extra help and then help the ones that the highly capable, they just need a little more boost to keep going. Anyway, I guess I didn't want to leave without setting some kind of standard, especially Julie and I. As we go on our merry way, we want to leave some kind of starting point. So I
Yeah,
just
wanna,
threw out a
just wanna
basic.
Hopefully. Just put in the mindset of all of us that, that we believe in our kids, that we believe that they have the potential that, 75%, 80, whatever we decide. We believe in our kids, that we can get there. We have that potential. That's right.
I think 80% is achievable. That's 4 out of 5 kids at grade level by the 5th grade. I mean, it might not be next year or the year after, but overall, especially after the COVID and people start, actually attending school and hopefully getting better.
One of the nice pieces about that is, we always do tend to look at our high school from a graduation standpoint. If we were expecting our elementary to get 80% of our kids grade level reading and math in 5 years, 15% a year basically is what you're looking at, of movement. To chunk it out a little bit, scaffolding, I think they call it, right, Joey?
But we don't have to set a year.
No. I'm just saying that if you don't want to be overwhelmed by the finality or the largeness of the number, there are ways that you can try and chunk it a little bit.
Johnny's composing a resignation
You guys are about talking about a race, and not everyone starts at the same starting line.
Sure.
No.
And a child that starts back here, even though they're making a year's growth, they're still constantly going to be back here. And if it could be some sort of goal where an individual child will make a year's growth or whatever, and get 85% of those kids making a year and a month growth or something like that. I don't know. I don't know how. I'm just thinking in the 32 years I've taught, I have never had 85 to 90% of my kids at grade level, ever. And that's teaching a long time in a very rich district, and now here, never. And I don't know how achievable that is going to be. Not that I don't believe kids can't learn. They can learn, but they don't all learn at the same time or at the same rate. We gotta keep that in mind.
And not that I disagree with Joni, because I rarely do. I also don't think that it's too much to say that we have a higher level of expectation now than maybe we have in the past.
Maybe a higher level of optimism.
Maybe a higher level of optimism, but also I know that looking at some of the test scores, in fact, some of the ones that we were presented with, we're seeing kids making more than a year's growth. So I'm not so sure that I'm not so sure it is too much to ask to get 80% of our kids, or even 75% of our kids to grade level by 5th grade. Because I think one of the biggest problems we have is accepting the fact that we can't. And without getting started necessarily. And of course, it all has to do with the assessment, as Joni knows, and what we're using. And I think that could play a factor in this, because we could, depending on language status, depending on a lot of things, there are a lot of ways for kids to demonstrate their knowledge that may be something we don't have right now. I just, I'm trying to balance what Joni is saying, and I certainly understand that, with the idea we've got a lot of excited people, especially in our elementary, where kids are making, if you can back to back a couple of those 1.5 years of growth, all of a sudden that's not such a big deal. And you get those people out in front like they are now, and kind of saying what they are capable of doing when you're implementing a system with fidelity. That's a big deal in my world. And while it may take time for some of those kids to go through the entire system, the high school eventually, and the middle school before that, will see the effects of these 1.5 years consistent growth on top of each other. And I don't think it's going to be as big a deal in 4 or 5 years I don't think it'll be as daunting as it may seem right now.
I think with the goals, because we can always change it down the road, 4 or 5 years down the road.
Oh, absolutely.
I think, like we're talking about, it has to be where the teachers and the kids are gonna wanna try to reach that goal.
Get on board.
Get on board, because if it's
Go
If it-
up, don't go down. So set it here and then.
Yeah,
up,
and go
But
up.
don't set it here and then go, well.
Maybe not.
Yeah, so set it, I think for that information, that data, probably get it from some of the teachers, say, hey, this is probably a pretty good, realistic, achievable goal we can get in 3 or 4 years. Whether that's 70, 75, whatever that is, at least we're going up the right direction, right? And in 3 years, 4 years down the road, hey, we hit it,
Let's bump it up.
you know what, let's go up to 80. Instead of setting it too high, where, what, we're never gonna get there. But having that attitude versus, hey, you know what, we can make 70, or whatever that number is. Eventually, if we get that number, we'll get to 80 once we get to 70. But I don't know what that number is. I mean, that would be information we need to pull out from, some of the teachers that have been teachers for a while and know, hey, if you have 4 or 5 teachers saying, hey, we never hit 80, we've been, like you're saying, okay, what's a realistic number for the next 3 or 4 years? Yeah.
Well, we're here to set that number.
Is that right now? What's the percentage right now for the kids?
Well,
At grade level passing?
what grade do we want to
Not
look at?
yet.
If we looked at 5th grade. Here's our reading.
Want to look at green and blue.
We've got 30% of our 5th graders in green and blue. And so 70% would be below grade level then.
Those were the 2nd graders in 2020. So I missed out half of 2nd grade. Most all of 3rd.
Significant chunk of yellow though too, which
Right.
they could make a gain. It's the red that you're really worried about. And there's almost half.
Mhm.
So we've got 30% there. 40% there, right? 40 more percent there, right? So that would be 70% there. So if we thought about like, so that 40%, right, that we're trying to get there, right? So over these 4 years, hopefully, 10% of them would move up in first grade or second grade. And another 10% would move up in second grade, and then third grade, another 10%. So over hopefully 4 to 5
Well, look
years,
at
you
your
would
first
see
grade
that
now.
shift.
Absolutely.
Because if you look at your first graders, because they're the ones that they've had, they were in kinder all the time, they're now in first grade now. If you look at them, you've got, their MAP is at 54%. So if you do, let's say, hopefully by second grade, they're at 60, they're here, so they're only 7 and 5. So you got 13% here. So let's say we want, say, 25% by second grade, and then you want 30%, 40, and then maybe by 5th grade, keep bumping that up. But then just keep bumping it up each year. So that's this first grade class, and then the kindergarten class, you're gonna have to be, at 60%, and the TK class, you're gonna have to be at 70% by the time you're in 5th grade. Because we've got this new curriculum in now, and they're in school full-time all day. And we're not dealing with these kids, 3, 4, and 5, that had half a year cut off and they were not in school. I mean, everybody would be on the same playing field then.
Well, I threw out a thought, somebody else's turn. I mean, I could adjust the numbers down, 75 and 80.
I think whatever number we throw out, we still need to get with the teachers if they think it's a good number.
I
So what-
wouldn't want to go any lower than 75%.
So,
I think it should be, a rigorous goal, or, a goal that says that, we want to make a change, we want to start moving in this direction, we just want to start making sure that we are looking at our tests each year and making our decisions to help the teachers get what they need to lift kids up.
so what if we approach this in a different way? I mean, obviously, I think the board, I think there's consensus that the board wants to set a high standard for an academic goal, correct? I think we've got a good idea around an SEL goal as well. What about, Joni, I'm looking at you because I need to be able to judge the
Reaction.
visceral reaction or lack thereof, I hope. What I'd really like to do is be able to say, you know what? Joni and 3rd grade team, 4th grade team, whatever that looks like. The board wants to put an academic achievement goal around 80% in place. Team, what would you need to be able to support that? Is it unrealistic? But that way the board can set a goal area. But then kind of what Rick was referring to, go back to the teachers and say, okay, when can this be achieved by and how? And it could be different for grade levels, but it would still have the stamp from the board as the board is setting a goal of, we want 80% of our kids at grade level in reading and math. But the things that you then have to do to get there, the detail work then quite frankly, you shove it back on me and say, okay, Pete, go talk to the teachers, go talk to the principals, and tell us how soon we can get there and what we need to do to get us there. I think that's a very doable plan of attack for this, because then I can literally go to the teaching staff, to my administrators and say, this is where the board wants the district to be. What is it going to take? Time, money, effort, planning, all of those things for the third grade team, for instance, to be able to get there. You might have very different ideas about it, but it would show that the board has set a goal of this is where we want to be. And quite frankly, it's more along the lines of get us there within the fiscal responsibility that we know we have to show. And what else could be the things in the process to do it? Just, it's an idea. But it would allow you to set a number and then would allow us, me, to go back and get feedback along with Joni, because I would take her with me wherever we went. To find out how we're gonna measure and achieve that goal that the board has set, quite frankly. And go ahead, Rick.
Well, I was gonna say, plus, we'll get buy-in for the teachers too, instead of us just setting a goal. And they come back to you, so, well, they don't even know what they're talking about, they set a goal too high. At least we get the buy-in for the teachers, get their input, and we're still gonna decide what percentage we want to set, but at least now they're part of the process and get some buy-in.
We got quite a bit of buy-in during the workshop.
Yeah.
And looking at the test scores, it's gonna be a lot easier for the elementary to achieve their goal than it is for the middle school.
Yeah, and that's, kind of what you're saying. It's gonna be different for, if we can get more of our kids coming out of 5th grade at grade level, then that's gonna drastically change what the middle
Exactly.
school classroom. So,
Yep.
maybe it's hopefully, I don't know, whatever we feedback from the teacher, I'll just say arbitrarily 5 years from now, hopefully we're, around that 70-80% of our kids that we're now sending to middle school. So now give the middle school another 3 to 4 years to get them up.
Correct. And that's really that's exactly the pattern that I was talking about. If we can set the foundation at the elementary to get to a certain point by 5th grade, it's gonna be very easy to then say to the middle school, okay, we got them here, where can we expect them to go?
And then I think it's really important too, 80% or whatever we said, that's a huge goal, but let's acknowledge the growth each year.
Right.
We're 10% closer, so
Correct.
we are like rewarding that effort and acknowledging the hard work that our teachers are doing, even if you're not at 80% yet, look at the gains that you did make and make
Correct.
sure we're acknowledging that growth, so.
Agreed.
So we're gonna set one or we're gonna let it slide?
I want to set one.
Okay. 75%. 80%.
What do you think?
77. Totally kidding. I like 80, I just,
So we just say 80%, 5th grade, 8th grade, and then.
And that's
high
by
school.
what year? Are
Well, we
we talking about? We're talking 80%.
Well, this is where Pete would then go
Yeah,
back.
we don't
and
have
say,
to set a
This is
year."
where we want our kids, right? 4th grade, how much time do you think you need? Or, 5th grade, how much time do you, middle school, if you could imagine you got in 4 years, this is what's coming
Right.
into your program.
So this number, let's say it's 80%. This number is just, Pete's gonna go back and say, hey,
This is what we're working
is
towards.
what
We know
we'd
it's a
like to see.
long-term goal,
Mhm.
that we don't make it time bound at this point, right?
Correct.
Right.
This is just our vision in the future where we want to see our kids.
Agreed.
Something to try to achieve.
Yeah.
I mean, how long did it take Kennewick? 10 years?
Yeah, it
12?
took a while, yeah.
Yeah.
Setbacks happen, right?
Well, and-
But then you keep,
But
Trying
Julie,
to
one of the
reach that
things you
goal, so.
said again, I think it was in that first meeting, because I was I was in the classroom, I think, still at the time when that discussion was being had. I mean, that goal was laughed at.
Yeah, I,
For years, that was laughed at. But guess what? Eventually, it got doable.
Mhm.
And it took just a lot of persistence over a number of years. It's not going to change overnight. Anybody who thinks this is a quick fix is in the wrong business, but I really think that you set that stake in the ground and then we go figure out how to get it done. And once you get that buy-in from the teachers, I think you'll get a lot better results moving forward, quite frankly.
And the parents too.
Mhm.
They don't want their kid to be the one that's holding back the 80% goal, and if they're motivated to help,
Mhm.
you know. If it means read at home for 20 minutes every night, then that's what we do.
Yep.
Unfortunately, the ones that are usually behind are the ones who have parents that don't really care, but that's the reality of it.
Well, and I will say that and I've had this conversation several times lately. We have to control what we can control. Do what we can with what we got. However, I don't think it's a bad thing to be able to go into staff meetings at each of our buildings and say the board would like us to hit an achievement rate of 80%. This district, tell me what we need to get there, tell me when we can get there and how we do it. And then we go do it.
and then each year we look at it and we,
Judge it and move from there.
and celebrate growth.
Yes.
So 80% of our 5th through 12th graders, I mean, should we extend it,
I think we leave,
or we just start?
I
with
think
fifth
we
grade?
just start with 80% of our kids. Period.
Okay,
And then in some of those conversations, we can make a determination whether there needs to be consideration of grade levels or anything else. I really like the idea though of being able, because so much of what Joni said was true, when we're seeing a high number of our kindergartners not coming in ready, well, guess who's very motivated by that discussion? Our preschool and our transitional kindergarten program. They are motivated by those conversations. So I'm not sure that we shouldn't just say the board wants 80% of our kids at grade level, wherever they're at
the end of the year.
Not this year.
Of each school year.
Yeah, you know, at a point down the road, when can I go and then I have the conversation with the teachers. When can I go tell the board, just like I'm having with you, when can I go tell the board that they can want to see that? I think they'd get behind that. And I think you're 100% of kids with trusting adults still.
No, I
Can
think
change
that
yeah, and it's just something for us to like look for every time we see this.
Yep.
Yep.
Agreed.
You want to make a proposal or want me to do it or put it on the table?
All right, I'll do it. So 80% of our kids will achieve grade level in math and reading. That's our goal.
Mhm.
And 100% of our kids will have a trusted adult and feel safe at school.
You feel safe at school.
I'll second it. Okay, all in favor? Aye?
Thank you, guys.
And with that, I will start the work on gathering some reports back from teachers. And at the same time, I'll also invite any member of the board who'd like to go along for that kind of a discussion. I think it would be valuable, quite frankly. Yeah,
I'm sure there'll be people shaking their heads and people
absolutely. And that's okay.
People thinking good, at least we have something to shoot for.
And there will be people, quite frankly, who may look at that and say it's not high enough.
Yeah.
Okay, well,
That'd be great.
that'd be great. We'll have that discussion too.
Okay, we'll move on to policy 24XX, elective credit, paid work experience. Is this like a second reading or?
No, this is not even a first reading. This is
Okay.
a discussion. And let me explain this to you. So we put the XX because it's a brand new policy. We're not exactly sure where it's going to fit, because some of the numbers are different as you look at the sample policies from district to district, and WASDA hasn't even put theirs out yet. The bottom line, though, with this particular policy is this is what Superintendent Reichdahl basically proposed and was able to get approved, was just the idea that kids need to be able to earn elective credit in high school for paid work experience. And so we have always had some type of a small group of students taking a CTE course, where we then would go out and look at pay stubs and try and align what the curriculum was. But what Superintendent Reichdahl did was much broader in scope. And the simple fact is that what I'm hoping to do is to get you a draft for a first reading at our next meeting. And that way we can let our newest elected board member get in on the ground floor of this one. But the timing of it is such that because this can actually be put into practice, and this could impact some kids and how we get them through school this year, quite frankly, towards graduation.
So some struggling for.
So
credits.
some kids who might be a credit or two short, we might be able to all of a sudden be able to offer them this elective credit. You know, when I had seen the policy, I liked the policy, I found a couple other versions of it. But then when Heidi was looking it up on WASDA, couldn't find it, we noticed that we already had a policy of the same number that another district had used, so that this really is just a very brief discussion about this, with the idea that we're gonna have a model policy for the board the next time that we get together, with the idea we can get this through a second reading, then in our early January meeting, and have it ready to go at the beginning of second semester around the 1st of February. That's really all I have on that.
I spent my senior year of work experience working on school buses. I didn't get any credit for it,
No.
but I got paid.
But you got it.
All right. Any other discussion or questions? Comment? Okay, we'll move on to after-school programs. Discussion there.
So just, this is as much an update, but it's new because basically what we're gonna propose, or what I'm gonna propose, the board approved us to go out and look to recreate the after-school program that's the 21st century program. When that grant was not renewed through the ESD, that program went away. We got approval from the board to go out and try and replicate it. The truth of the matter is, now that we're, almost a month and a half, 2 months into looking for a person to oversee the program, and we simply can't find one. So what I'm coming back with is that I'd like the board's permission to go ahead and take the posting down, because we are not getting any interest in it from an employee standpoint, but also one of the things I really expected to hear, quite frankly, was from our families. If it wasn't made available, it's supposed to start around that middle of September, 1st of October timeline. So we were trying to hurry it up to recreate the program. We haven't had a huge call for it at this point. So I'm not nearly as concerned as I was when we first had these discussions, about folks not having access to childcare. Because that really wasn't the major impetus behind moving so quickly to replicate that. It hasn't materialized though. Excuse me. What we would like to do though is just, with the board's approval, we were just proposing we take down the posting. Excuse me. And
Put it off till later.
well, we'll put it off. We'll wait and see if the grant does get renewed. We hopefully will see before the school year is out. Because we feel like if we can get, if we can get that knowledge up front, we can then get the kids ready to enroll in the program so that they show up in September for that. This would then allow us to take the funding that was used there and we can apply it either back into our overall budget, or we can look at some possibilities for supporting the elementary in other ways, because that's really where this was going to take place. Supporting them either through some behavior intervention help or something along those lines. So really, it's not even anything that we have to have approval on, other than to tell you, I'm not going to be bringing you a person to approve as a new employee because we can't find them, and we'd simply like to take this in a different direction, still to support the elementary, but probably not in this way. There's just not the need at this point. But I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have about that.
I do like the idea of helping the elementary behavior. And even if we were to find someone, we'd only be offering it for, the second half of the school year, so.
The earliest we could get this thing up and running would be for second semester, and we're halfway
And
through
that's
the
if we
year
were-
at that point.
yeah, So,
If I had people knocking down the doors, I would absolutely say, no, we're gonna keep this going until we find somebody. I simply don't have that.
most families have probably found it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's move on to board comments. Oh, did you have more?
Nope,
Okay, sorry.
it's okay.
I have 7.
Oh,
All the
You haven't
comments
read
have been made.
well, I just wanted to comment on being here for 8 years. It's been pretty fun. Relatively, seen a lot of ups and downs and endured COVID. We made some successes. I think we made sure that the teachers got a good raise. I mean, over the 8 years, I think they probably got more than 30% pay raises. We've always tried to watch out for them, so. I don't know. Been fun, been an experience. Definitely meet all kinds of people. Hey, I'm used to that. Not the first time.
Excuse me.
You want to take a break for a second
No,
before I report?
I'm good. It's gonna be brief.
Any other comments? Okay, well then we'll go to superintendent's report.
Yeah, just real quick, thank you, Dale. And thank you for the 8 years that you put in. And I know at some point in the future, we'll go down the path of welcoming Gina and then seeing what happens with our other positions and that transition. So the main thing, I did give you a really nice little mini poster that I found in my box today. Thank you, Rosario. When I came in tonight, it's a groundbreaking of the River North subdivision. 59 homes going into that one. And I gotta be honest, I like having this. I like you being able to see it because quite frankly, I'm gonna probably put it, in a few places where people will see it, because one of the things that I know, until you see shovels moving dirt, people are a little reluctant to think that things are actually gonna happen. Well, you know, we are all invited to go out there on Thursday, if it's not snowing, and see groundbreaking. So I did get an opportunity on this particular topic. I had a initial lunch meeting with Len, who will be our new mayor. And we had some long discussions about this particular subdivision, as well as the one across from the high school. And then where the city's at with their subdivision or sub area 182 or I-82. And I think that we're going to have to make sure that the school and the city are all on the same page when it comes to planning these. Not just planning the subdivisions themselves, but then obviously the school district's role in those and the impacts it will have. So it was a very good first meeting to have, and I'm looking forward to working with them.
Will this be a new bus route? We don't have drivers for.
This one will probably be absorbed into one of the ones that currently goes on the Planet Street, since that's how you get to this one. I'm hoping that
Probably won't be this year anyway. I mean,
yeah,
by the time.
but this, I mean,
moving in, it'll be
this
spring.
was exactly the reason, as Dan said last time, why we went simply with the one reduction in the route versus the two, because this will be something that we have to then put back into the system.
Back, the bus route will be back.
Correct, or at least one of the two will be. So with that, 59 homes going in there, and then the proposal is for 210 more across the street, so things are happening. I'll be having community council next Tuesday before our first home basketball game. So I'm hoping that coming together, the events might be able to talk some people to coming into the community council meeting and then going to the basketball game. Then I had told the board that I was going to be attending a bond election training in Spokane on Thursday. And I can tell you that just as a result of COVID and the potential for snow and such, more so in Spokane than here, I'm not going to be attending that. So.
Is it on Teams or anything?
Excuse me, no, it's not. But it starts at 8 o'clock in downtown Spokane, and I'm not gonna hurry up there and slide off the road in Ritzville, because I've been to Ritzville. And I don't want to get stuck there.
Don't need to go back.
So, but I had told the board that I was going to be attending that, but I'm going to go ahead and, it's a free seminar. I'm going to cancel it. A superintendent from Clarkston, who's a colleague, is going to get the materials and then send them to me. So with that, that's really the update that I have for you.
So when you talked to Mr. Burton, did he say anything about this planning, that he agreed with the size of the lots and the houses, or?
It actually, this was almost, we didn't talk about this one as much as we did the one right across from the high school. And yeah, the city has some concerns. When they initially were drawing out the plans, his feeling is that in the current configuration, the streets are not going to be wide enough for emergency services to get through consistently, especially if they allow parking on both sides of the street. He has many of the same concerns that Mr. Adamson and I talked about with the city planner, which was Highland in its current form will not support all of that traffic and a sidewalk and parking along that sidewalk. You take up a majority of that road as it's currently situated, and it would need to be done. All of the internal street width and everything is actually being done by the group that's building the houses, so that is still up for debate, and I know that there's a work session with the planning commission coming up in December. I don't know the exact date. But I'm gonna be planning to attend that. So that we can get some more information. I really think if they would ratchet down the number of houses, they could expand the internal infrastructure with the streets, if they had a better idea of the parking. My fear is just that you're literally gonna have, you could have two neighbors, each one of them with an RV, and all of a sudden you've got a 40-foot wide street that when, take 12 off of each side, and all of a sudden now you're down to 16 feet. And, then you're trying to get a big ladder truck through there in a worst case scenario, and how the heck does that happen? So there are a lot of things, and I'm very glad that Mr. Burton has he's got some good ideas about it and how to fix it. He's also had very good conversations with members of the fire department, with county sheriffs, for those emergency service planning. So I think it, at least from the planning side, it's gonna be in good hands moving forward. Not to mention the fact that if you try and take one of our big buses through there, that's a tight squeeze.
Well, and when you open up an instant ghetto, you're gonna have a lot of emergency services there.
Yep.
With little tiny houses and stuff. I just wondered.
Yep, absolutely. Good question.
Any other questions or? Okay, well, I guess then we will move into an executive session pursuant to RCW 42, performance of a public employee, and adjourn with no business to follow. Thanks for your input, Joni.
Thanks, Joni. Yes, we do. You know it.
Since junior high.